some data that's out. I talked about this a couple of years ago. That's a little bit older. For the State Department data that's out there for Americans who die overseas by non-natural causes, meaning non-disease causes. If you took those figures and projected them onto the 2006 numbers for study abroad, the predictive value in study abroad would be about 28 students annually from mortality. These guys, Goose et al., they drilled down and they looked a little bit more into the contributing causes of all the American abroad fatalities. And what they came up with was that the #1 factor in the American fatality, after we take out some locational things, was judgment, which is not comforting for those of us who have worked a lot with young adults and adolescents. And I'll talk about that. The next one. Lawrence Steinberg down at Temple University takes exception with a lot of his colleagues in developmental and cognitive psychology. He says that contrary to their view, young adults, which is the new category that everybody talks about that's now under 25, and adolescents, which is supposed to be around 20 or so, actually look at the world the very same way that we do in terms of they would identify everything as being risky the same as we would identify everything as being risky. It's not that they don't see those things as risky. However, what he says is that whatever the adaptive value of risk-taking behavior on some evolutionary level, the adaptive value of risk-taking behavior that begins in adolescence does not start to slow down until the age of 25, when the cognitive structures that start to inhibit that risk-taking become fully developed. The implication of this for me is that you can give your students all the excellent information that you want. If I was trying to get you to understand something about risk, I would give you the information. I would figure that you would process that in a way that would be adaptive. You can't necessarily assume that about your students, and it's not their fault. That's just how they are evolutionarily, cognitively, developmentally. The third study there, Arches et al. She's great. She came and I invited her, after I read her article, I called her up on the phone and invited her to be on a panel at the Forum Risk Management Conference. She did some of the only research I've really seen on risk-taking behavior and study abroad students. And what she did was she looked at what their attitudes were before going abroad, and her conclusions were study abroad students are significantly underinformed about hazards when they go abroad, despite the best efforts of study abroad programs everywhere. They still get most of their information from youth-oriented guidebooks like the Rough Guide and the Lonely Planet Guide. Really high percentage of people said that's where they got most of their risk management information from. I said, having all the orientations that everybody's doing all over the country. I guess the students are texting while that's going on. The second thing is that students were significantly under-concerned about hazards when they were abroad, and students were significantly overconfident in their ability to navigate risks abroad. She does a lot of training we'll talk about. She's trying to figure out what kind of training will have the most impact on our students. We'll talk about that today. William Glasser, I talked about this last time. William Glasser, we're running a little short on time. I would have you jump up and down on one leg and bark like a dog and all this, just to see who would do it, who wouldn't do it. And then I would ask you why you did it and why you didn't do it. And the point would be to say, we don't do things we're not stimulus response. The people who did do that did it because they thought either it would be fun or there might be some value to it. They hired me to come in here, so maybe there's some value to what I say. Those of you who didn't do it would decide not to do it because you don't. It was stupid and you would be right, yeah. Well, what William Glasser says is of value to me, particularly when I'm looking at students who, they're blowing off curfew, they're doing things we don't want them to do, they're doing things that I frankly look at and go like, that is dumb as a box of rocks, and you could get killed doing that, and that would be really devastating for everybody around you, and a hell of a lot of paperwork, and blah, 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 to be more effective working with students, I like this point of view, which is, all we are is behavior machines, whatever. And what we are doing is trying to meet our needs all the time. And all of our behavior is our best attempt to meet those needs at whatever given moment it is. And the differences in behavior are really more a matter of competence than they are of somebody being dumb or whatever the stories we run about students who are very, very difficult. It's just a matter of competence. And if I can look at it like that, then I don't have to get angry. I don't have, I can just let go of all that stuff, and I can go like, okay, how can I be the most effective in dealing with this student? How can I increase their competency level so that they don't do something that looks really dumb? Okay. Leave last year's work looking in. So, for you to be effective working with students, these are the icons that I pulled up for working with students. You need to have the integrity of the Dalai Lama. You need to have the competency of Captain Kirk, the old Captain Kirk. Most of you are age to know the difference. And if your students come to you and they ask you 5 questions, the first 5 times if you answer, good question, I'll get back to it, they stop coming. You need to know all the questions that they are going to be asking you. When they get to a country, where's this? How do I do this? How do I do this? If you're sitting there going like, here's how you do it, yeah, that's it, then they're going to be like, okay. And then when you say, don't go down there, they go, okay, she seems to know about these things. She seems to know about these things. If you're going, yeah, I don't know, I'll get back to you. Then when you say, don't go down there, they go, yeah, whatever. So, being confident is important. The far right is Sun Tzu. You need to be very strategic. You need to be strategic at your very first meeting with your students back here, and strategic all the way through there. Some of you may have learned the hard way not to be the students' buddies, because all of a sudden, when it comes time for you to put back on your hat of trip leading faculty, and you say, you can't do this, the fact that you were their buddy yesterday makes it much harder to get the response that you really need to have. So some of the things that you do very early on, also in terms of building relationship with your students, becoming a need-fulfilling person, etc., it may pay off 3 months later when you're someplace else on the planet and things are getting difficult. You need to have the compassion of Mother Teresa. As I tell our student affairs managers, you will be spending 99% of your time with the students that you don't like that much. They are the ones that need you. The students that you really like, everybody likes them. They have excellent social skills, they're responsible. They don't need you. So you need to expect that. When you're spending your 4th hour talking to the student again about their boyfriend, their girlfriend, their dog, they're homesick, people don't like them, it's like, yeah, that's your job. That's part of the deal, that's part of the package. Which means you also need to have the sense of humor of the gentleman to the right, the Blues Brothers. Because if you don't have humor, the days will really, really feel long.